special edition of What Drives Us. My name is Russell Frost. I am your host for this really cool little one-off with our friend Jon B. Welcome, Jon B.
Hey, Russell. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being
Hey.
on this little special segment.
Absolutely. And you're wondering why? What's so special about Jon? Why does Russell need to do yet another two What Drives Us in one day? And the answer to that is simply Jon bought a car. How long ago, Jon?
It's coming up on 2 months now.
On 2 months. So for the last 60 days, and you get to do the reveal, my friend. What have you been driving?
I have managed to acquire a 2022 Kia EV6.
Yes. Of the two, well, I shouldn't, you know what, I'll get in trouble. I was going to say, everybody's talking about the Ioniq 5, the Ioniq 5. Wow, the Ioniq 5's, I don't like the styling of the Ioniq 5. The EV6, way sexier, way prettier in my world, but that's me.
Yeah, same here. Oh.
So I don't know, Jon, where do we start? Where do you want to start? What's the most important takeaway on the EV6?
You know, I've been thinking about this the last, 2 months as I was driving this, and it's still a rare car, especially in Canada. We probably only have a couple hundred, to be honest with you. Oh, wow. And so, there's been people coming up to me and asking questions. And the funny thing is, I've noticed is that when I give the response, it's not your typical electric car response. When anyone comes in for a new electric car, what's the first thing they ask? What's the range like? What's the battery size? How far can I go, right? How far can I charge? But the thing about this EV6 is that it is a great car to drive. And that's the first thing I usually touch on is what do you like about the car? And I always say it's the ride and handling. Range usually comes up later when they ask.
I've had this sneaking suspicion, and I've said this on What Drives Us, that we're getting to the point. Now, I know it's still really early in the adoption curve of electric cars, but we're getting to the point where we might have been in, let's say, like 2008 with the Prius. We can stop with the tree hugging. We can stop with the saving polar bears. We can stop with all that and go, this is just a damn good car. It's a blast to drive. It carries stuff, or it does, you know what I mean? Like, and I think we're kind of a little bit maybe over the hump of like the first thing is, oh my God, what if you run out of electricity?
Mm-hmm. I agree with you on that. If you look at the current offerings, right, that just came out in the last year, Volkswagen ID4, Ford Mustang Mach-E, Kia EV6, Hyundai Ioniq 5, right, the upcoming Toyota BZ4X, Subaru Solterra, and Nissan Ariya. They're all just really nice cars that just happen to be electric.
God help us all. No, and I mean that in the best way, because this is sort of the point in time that all of us on the show and a lot of our friends have been like waiting for. Give us lots of good options. Give us diversity. And although there may be not quite as much diversity as I would like to see, we're getting there. We're getting there. Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, I have a million questions, but is there anything else you want to start off with?
Well, there's a lot of reviews on the Ioniq 5 and
yes.
Ioniq 5 versus EV6. And like you said, most of the reviewers do favor the Ioniq 5. And I get that. I like that retro future look. Anyone who's kind of born in the 80s, they get that Super Nintendo-like, look to that car. And I get it. That's exactly their targeted buyer, right? The family, young family or even empty nesters. But with the EV6, the thing I like about this one is that it is, again, it's just a nice car. It's sportier. It fits my style better, and it drives really well. It is slightly stiffer than the Ioniq 5, which is kind of tuned again for more of a family car, more of a cruiser. This one does certainly, of course, can. It's built on the same EGM Play platform, but then you tap into the expertise of Albert Biermann, former BMW M division vice president, right? And you have him start touching the tune, and this is why I keep harping on the ride and handling, because it is very well sorted. And of course, there's a nice Canadian connection. Karim Habib, chief designer of the EV6, grew up in Montreal.
you had to bring it all home twice, didn't you?
Yes.
That was beautiful. So, I mean, and forgive me, maybe this is a personal question, but just because we have history that goes back, Jon, you bought an electric car and it wasn't a Toyota.
Yes.
I mean,
And
you did that because you couldn't get the BZ, right?
yes.
Or,
So, well, Toyota didn't have one,
right?
right? Anyone in the Prius community knows, we've been harping on Toyota for a plug-in for well before the 2012 plug-in came out.
Right.
And then that came out in the Prime. And once the Prime came out, we've been harping on them, hey, where's the electric car? And since then, everyone else has kind of offered something. And then, of course, now they have. A little late for some, but again, it's still early for others, right? There's still the opportunity to research and go down that route. But for me, I think after the years of Prius, I'm looking at who's the one that's offering what I was looking for in the Prius, right? The advanced technology, the great efficiency, and just a great all-around package. And the Hyundai Motor Group just happened to be the one.
Miles per kilowatt hour.
Oh, you want me to convert to? Oh gosh. So my lifetime since, I'm gonna have to bring a calculator out. Excuse me. And this is what happens when we do a live chat. So,
and this is what happens when I ask you a question and you are just OCD enough to care.
Yep, I gotta get you the
right. I would be like 4.2. Like I'd ballpark it, but
right. So over let's see. So it's about 17 point. Actually, I think down to 17.1 kilowatt hours per 100. 5.8 divided by that, and that can't be right. That's very efficient. No, I don't think I'm getting that kind of numbers. Anyway, so I think I'm looking at about three and a half, if I remember the conversion correctly.
Yeah,
it's 17 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers.
And I'm making you do miles, and I'm sure you keep records in kilometers.
Kilowatt hours per 100. Yes.
Forgive me for that. Yeah. Forgive me for that. But 3.5 isn't bad.
No.
I mean,
and yeah, and like as the temperature gets warmer, so this is my lifetime since I picked up the car, right?
Right.
And just the recent charges, the last two charges, I've been getting closer to like 3.84 miles, right? So eventually, once we get the summer temperatures, which unfortunately in this part of the country we haven't experienced yet, I'm sure I'll be up there in the fours.
Wow. Yeah, I would think. I mean, both Hyundai and Kia are usually pretty good about making their electric vehicles reasonably efficient. Whether it was the Soul EV or the Ioniq EV that I drove, both of them were real strong contenders, efficiency wise. Which I thought was where everybody else is like, yeah, a 10,000 pound Hummer is not a problem. We can make that, and anyway.
If I may make a side note, we finally have a Hummer that gets the same MPGe as a Prius.
God.
What is it, 56?
I can't even imagine. Yeah. Maybe going downhill.
No, I think that's officially rated.
Is it? Wow.
I mean, most EVs are in the hundreds, right? So
it's such an outrageously offensive vehicle to me that I've honestly avoided it. So, and that's probably not good. I should probably know all the stats and be conversant with it, but it's just no, you know what? I can get behind the Porsche Taycan, not the Hummer. It's silly, but so you love driving it. It's great to drive. No electric downsides. I mean, you've got instant torque. Is it fast?
It is very fast. So I do have the all-wheel drive version. So this is the GT Line Package 2 all-wheel drive, which is the equivalent to the GT Line all-wheel drive in the US.
Okay.
So twin motors, 320 horsepower, 446 foot-pounds of instant torque.
Wow, 320 horsepower.
Yes, for the dual motor. And so 0 to 60 is officially rated at 4.6. And that's been verified by people like
Nice. So, I mean, this is the first time in a long time you've actually had a performance car in your garage.
Not long time, ever.
Fair enough. No, I mean, and yet you're not burning any gas. And that's the beautiful thing.
Yeah. And the great thing is also in eco mode, it shuts out so in eco mode, at the start, it acts like the Prius all-wheel drive, where all four motors will assist from a stop up to about 20 kilometers an hour, about 15 miles an hour, 13 miles an hour, and then it shuts off. So most of the time I'm in rear wheel drive.
Interesting.
And that's, yeah, so 220, 228, 225 horsepower, but still 446 foot-pounds. So
that's a lot. Are you do you see yourself going through tires, rear wheel drive car guy?
I suspect, and part of it is the weight, right?
Right.
2,100 kilos. What does that convert to? 4,400, 4,600 pounds, 4,400 pounds?
Yeah.
No, more than that, 4,600 pounds, I think.
Wow.
And it is rear biased. So it is what is it now? 49 front, 51 rear weight bias. So it's very, very slightly, biased to the rear. So yes, I have been wary of, not launching it too many times, because again, you'll go through the tires if you do, and they're not cheap because they're 20-inch.
Very nice. You're charging at home?
I am, yes. So thus far, I am still using the same Clipper Creek charger that I had for the Prime.
For the Prime. Okay.
So that's just 3.3 kilowatts. So just barely twice as powerful as a 120 socket. I intend to upgrade to 9.6 kilowatt. That's what my outlet is capable of, and the car is actually capable of 11 kilowatt AC. But you need a hardwire connection for that.
Right. So let me ask you this though: using the lower wattage connection, how's it doing? I mean, are you replacing the miles that you use during the day?
So I'm not driving a lot. I have shorter commutes compared to your typical American, and so I'm usually charging about once a week.
Oh.
And this is from 80 to about 30% or maybe 25%. So I'm not even using the full down to 20%.
Wow.
Range that people recommend for daily driving. And so even from 25 to 30% up to about 80, so you're charging 50 to 55% of the battery. It takes about 15 hours. Not really a big deal for me. Again, because I don't use that much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and at the very least, it's sitting in the garage overnight. Let's just say you had a long commute. You know what I mean? So that's
correct. And
no,
I'm using 1/3 of the power it can take.
Right.
So absolutely, yeah. 7 hours is what they rate.
I think the point I'm trying to make or get to here, maybe not as subtly, but again, I probably made this with you in the past, is that I think a lot of the charging anxiety people talk about is just manufactured. Like it's a bias towards a lot of the existing EVs that are super big batteries, super long range. A lot of people could get by with really low power charging overnight on a regular basis and not have to worry about super fast DC quick charge.
Mm-hmm. Or even then, so and this kind of ties into a plug-in hybrid thinking too, and I'll get to that later if we have time. And the idea is that I have to recover everything that I've used today by tomorrow morning, and no, not necessarily. If you recover 60, 70, 80% of what you did, okay, so throughout the week you're slowly chipping away at your battery, but you have a large battery. And again, worst come to worst, you can always top up on a fast charge somewhere, or even at a supermarket, right? You'll have a faster 6.6 kilowatt, 7.2 kilowatt charger. That hour you get there, the hour you take the shop there, you can easily, recover 30 miles, 40 miles. Doesn't sound like a lot, but that's enough for you to cover the trip home, maybe, or the trip that day in just 1 hour.
What is the range of your EV6?
So officially, the all-wheel drive is rated at 273 miles. Again, I'm going to have to do my conversion to make sure I got it right. 270. Well, I was right. 276.
276.
Okay. 441 kilometers. And this is the all-wheel drive. So if you get the rear-wheel drive with the 19-inch rims, it is 310 miles or 499 kilometers.
That's not bad. I could make do with 100-mile range. Right. I drive 20 miles a day, and I could charge overnight to get back that 20 miles at a regular AC outlet. So, that's not it's for me, it's not a big deal. We talked about handling and performance. You like driving it. I don't know, any downsides?
Yes. So far, there's a lot of piano black trim inside and out. Now, the funny thing is that, so with the Gen 2 Prius, we've had that acrylic cup holder thing in the center console, and where the radio is, right? It was behind that cover, acrylic cover. That was fine. Showed a little bit of scratches, throughout the 10, 11 years that we had it, but it wasn't obvious. Got rid of that in Gen 3. That was fine. Gen 4 came back with piano black. Weirdly enough, like when I was looking at the car before I traded it in, so it's only three years old, and we do still have a Gen 4, so that's now coming up on 5 or 6 years old now. There weren't a lot of scratches, right? It wasn't like, it held up pretty well, is what I'm saying. Unfortunately, with this one, it did come with it does scratch easily, and it does actually collect a lot of fingerprints compared to Toyota's piano black. So the different manufacturing or different supplier, right? So that's I guess one of the obvious downsides. And so with the black, especially with the black interior or the piano black in the exterior, that's hard to control, right? The moment you wash your car, if you accidentally have something in your mitt, that's you're done, right?
Oh, you use the brush that doesn't have quite soft enough bristles. Black is just, it's a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
I understand. My 3rd Gen Prius was that way, and
okay.
I fought it for a while.
Oh, you're right. The Gen 3 did have a piano black rear spoiler. That held up well on my car, on my 10-year-old Gen 3.
Did it?
Yeah.
Well,
I can keep going with the downside. Yeah, go ahead.
No. I kind of want to go back to the buying decision.
Right.
If you don't mind. Mm-hmm. So what were your choices, and why did you choose the EV6?
Right. So I knew after purchasing Prime that I wanted an electric car. When people say, oh, a plug-in hybrid is the gateway, I don't want to use the word drug, but it's, a gateway to electric vehicle ownership. It certainly is. Once you get the taste of electric driving, that range and the ability to just charge anywhere, it's addictive, right? And so I wanted more than that. And with my use case, okay, COVID did kind of mix things up a bit, with all the work from home, and you're not traveling as much. But even before COVID, that first summer, the only gas that I used would be on road trips, right? Traveling within town. At that time, there was a lot of free charging. It's all paid. Well, most of it's starting to be paid now because there's more vehicles. But back then, there was a lot of free charging around town, and I could just hop from place to place and top up. And so that was great. And so when I was researching electric vehicles, so this would have been last year or year and a half ago, you were basically researching what is coming, because obviously at that time you had the Leaf, the Bolt, the Kona, Soul, and Nero. And so all of these new long-range EVs were coming in, the Mach-E and the ID.4. Actually, I had my eyes set on a Volkswagen Space Vision concept that was shown at the 2019 LA Auto Show. That was that really large station wagon of all things. Kind of Passat-sized, A6 Avant-size, kind of mid-size.
Wow.
Really stylish, and for a wagon.
I'm having trouble wrapping my mind around you in a station wagon. I love station wagons, but
yeah, I know that's and this I realize it's all preliminary specification, but the things that Volkswagen said at the auto show, saying this will have 150 kilowatt DC fast charging, will have a 500 kilometer, 310 mile EPA rate range. And I was like, in a vehicle that big, this is 2019 we're talking about.
Right.
Great. And it's coming in 2023. Of course, now COVID's pushed it back to 2024, but nevertheless, right? That was a pretty nice vehicle. And I know we've touched on the Volkswagen ID range on What Drive Us. way back before the ID3 came out, right when there was the ID Neo and the ID Cross and that sort of thing. And then last spring, we did a show, and there was an unveiling of the EV6, I believe, somewhere in March. The Ionic was revealed in February, I believe, and EV6 was in March. Didn't really think too much about that. I looked at the Ionic going, hey, that's a cool car. Specs are good, right? Same thing, 500 kilometer range. That's more than I need. My target was 400, so all of these were well, above my range. And I was hearing about this 800-volt charging. Again, this is all early stuff, so didn't really think about it. I'm like, okay, sure, yeah, 800 volts, whatever, But then Porsche came out with the Taycan, and right, and that kind of demonstrated, oh, this is what 800-volt architecture means in real life, right? It allows for faster charging. It allows for repeatable performance. Repeatable. I mean, you're not going to.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not going to do one lap. You can do 10 laps.
You do 10 laps, right? With the lower current, the thinner wires, you save. Yeah, the manufacturer saves costs, just lower current, less heat, and allows for faster charging. Now I know you get down to the nitty-gritty, each of the cells, depending on how they're arranged, there could be the same amount of heat going to each cell in both 400 and 800-volt architecture. But nevertheless, the advantage as a consumer is that you can charge faster on road trips. So then this is when I started getting more interested in the Hyundai and Kia. And I will say there's also a Genesis product that's coming out soon, GV60, if anyone's interested in a more luxurious version of this.
Right.
And so I think the world premiere, so that was just a concept in March, I think. And I think the world premiere was later on in that year, last year, 2021, maybe April or May, or something like that. And May was the US reveal, so it was just prior to that. And again, it was the Kia did very well with the presentation. I think that's what caught my eye, right? It's the design. Of course, they revealed that the video where they pitted against all the supercars, the Lamborghini Urus, the 911 Cabriolet, McLaren 575, and Ferrari California. And it beat all of them except the McLaren, which eventually caught up and took first place. The EV6 GT took second place. I will take this time now to mention that there is an even faster GT version with 575 horsepower.
Jeez.
And that's 0 to 62 miles an hour in 3.5 seconds, if you so desire.
Right. So you picked the EV6 because it was the best fit, price?
Yes, it was the most stylish, in my opinion, right? Again, I had my eye on the Ioniq 5 first, then the EV6 came along and stole my heart. So I like the way it looked. Again, looks kind of more station wagon-y. Marketing would never admit to that because we all know why. It has 6.1 inches of ground clearance, so it's just half an inch higher than a typical sedan. And it does have a lower roof. So again, it's not as practical as if someone's looking for practicality, definitely the Ioniq 5, right? It's 3 inches taller in the roof. The wheelbase is 4 inches longer. So there's definitely a little bit more room there, both in height and in length. But yeah, for my use case, that roof line was fine. Pricing, now, unfortunately, the Kia EV6 is more expensive than the Ioniq. So the Ioniq is actually a better value. You also do get more stuff in it. So for example, if I take an Ioniq Limited, because mine is a GT Line Package 2, top of the line, EV6, let's compare it to an Ioniq Limited in the US, Ioniq 5 Limited. In Canada, that would be the Ioniq 5 Preferred Long Range All-Wheel Drive with Ultimate Package.
0.2.
0.2.
Who knows?
So the Ioniq 5 will have a panoramic roof, which that seems to be a more popular thing nowadays compared to a standard moonroof. And it does have a sunshade, a solid sunshade, not a mesh. The rear seats can slide and recline like a Prius V. Oh. And the driver's seat does have a footrest or leg rest rather, such that when you recline it it has a feature called the premium relaxation mode. Premium relaxation seat is the feature. So it's a one touch where it will recline and tilt the seat more so than you normally can with a normal power seat tilt function. So it reclines like a lazy boy, and then of course that leg rest extends. So the idea is that you can charge. Sorry, you can rest while charging. So there's these extra features, and of course, a lighter interior and that sort of thing.
So how have you been with your EV6? I mean, you like the interior, the technology's good, things work as they're supposed to.
Yes. So again, so with the push to more sustainable materials, of course, a lot of these electric cars will be offering other materials other than real leather. Most of them just offer a synthetic leather of some sort. The reason why I picked this particular model is because it comes with a synthetic suede and synthetic leather combination. And for me, it's just something different after the soft tech seats in the Prime. This synthetic suede, again, it's grippier. It's just nice. It really feels nice to the touch. It feels like a premium cloth. And so the seating itself, I found was quite supportive. It's very close to Nissan's zero gravity seats.
Oh, wow.
Now keep in mind that elsewhere in the world, the KIA EV6 also comes with that premium relaxation mode. It just isn't offered in North America. So the seats are designed to be supportive, and it does show. So I do like that. The technology, pretty good. It is wired, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, not wireless. Doesn't bother me, but I know it does bother a lot of people. Over-the-air updates, only for navigation software. It is to come, not yet. Our April update is a downloadable update. If you do want the latest and greatest, go with the Genesis GV60. Yeah. That will have the latest NVIDIA infotainment system.
Interesting. How's the stereo?
All right, so this one comes with the EV6 comes with a 14-speaker Meridian audio system.
Nice.
Ioniq 5 comes with an 8-speaker Bose system. Ooh. And the GV60 is I forgot the count now, 16 or 18-speaker Bang & Olufsen sound system. I was excited about the Meridian sound system when it was first announced because we've seen that in Jaguar and Range Rover and Rivian now, and it's a fantastic sound system in those vehicles. Fortunately, I'm not completely enthralled with the audio system, but I'm not completely disappointed either. It is clear, it's crisp. I do like that. It's very similar to my Bang & Olufsen headphones, but it is lacking the punch like my Bang & Olufsen headphones.
Oh, interesting.
So so it does have a subwoofer. Unfortunately it's a 5-inch that sits in the cargo well. So you don't hear a lot of that. You do hear it coming through the woofers in the front doors, but even sitting in the back, you don't hear it coming out of the well there. So the 5-inch subwoofer is too small.
Yeah. 5 inches, fine for a bass driver and a door, but it's not a subwoofer. You need at least an 8. And I'm a big fan of 8-inch subwoofers actually, because I don't like that bass. I want a punchy kind of feel more than hear bass, and that's like a JL Audio W7 kind of 8-inch thing. I want something beefy.
But I will say, when you do crank it up, again, it's clear that there's very little distortion, and whatever bass does come through the woofers in the door, it's not muddy. Now you compare it to the JBL audio in the Prius Prime, or even in 2006 Prius. It's punchy, but you crank it up and it gets muddy.
I just drove I'm just editing now the review on the Sienna Hybrid, which has a 14-speaker JBL system. One of the most average sound systems I've ever heard in a Toyota. And
is it because of the size of the Sienna?
I don't know. I can't figure it out. It's underpowered. And I'm not saying that because I need it to be super loud. I'm saying that because there's not enough power to make it sound good at lower volumes. The amplifier is trying to work, and especially with digital amps, as soon as it's over. They sound hellishly horrible. I don't know. It was a very underwhelming sound system, which kind of didn't surprise me, kind of did. Anyway, enough of that. Look for our review on the upcoming Sienna Hybrid soon. Okay, let's see. So we talked about audio. We talked
Yeah.
about what about driving stuff? ADAS.
Right. So before I get into ADAS, just one thing to touch on the driving part. So yeah, so the ride and handling, pretty happy with that. Steering wheel is a bit light. Um,
Oh,
it doesn't, yeah. And surprisingly, the Prius Prime has a quicker steering ratio than the EV6.
really?
Just slightly, because I can tell you make a left turn with the Prime, and the Prime is a pretty quick steering wheel for a normal commuter car.
Yeah.
Um, and with the EV6, I just have to a couple more degrees of the
Wow.
wheel just to make a turn. But steering wheel is light. I prefer it to have a little bit more heft, but for it's not supposed to be a sports car. It's not supposed to be a BMW. If I wanted that, there's the i4, right?
Right.
So keeping expectations in check,
Sure.
I think it's fine. The steering wheel is actually quite thick. It is like almost a BMW style steering wheel. Um, yeah, not your skinny little rims from
Yeah.
from the 70s and 80s.
Do you feel bad you didn't get a yoke?
No,
Good.
I'm kidding. Now, some people will argue it would benefit from a yoke because
No.
depending on your height, no, well, what I'm saying, depending on your height, and because Kia just uses a traditional steering wheel compared to like an iX or an iX has kind of a squared off top, so you can
Right.
see the screen. Kia just went with a regular steering wheel. So the corners where your speedo and your range is located may be obscured depending on how you set your seat and how tall you are. Fortunately for me, I do have the augmented reality head-up display. I almost never look at the screen. Everything's up on the road. That's where
Nice.
I primarily look at. I will glance down to look at the efficiency numbers. That's pretty much the reason why I'll glance down. ADAS, speedo, everything's up there. So let's go on to ADAS. So this is my first experience with highway driving assist on a Hyundai Motor Group vehicle. This one comes with 2.0. The additional feature is just a lane change feature. It's not an auto lane change like Tesla or lane change assist in the Lexus Copilot systems.
Right.
You do have to nudge it in the direction you want. When you see all the arrows, and then it will initiate the lane change. In terms of feature, that's the only thing I noticed, or is at least it's listed in the specifications or in the brochure. I don't know if there's any software improvements. There might be, right? Just like between Toyota Safety Sense 1.0 and 2.0 and 2.5. Sure, there's additional features, but you got to imagine there's also been tweaking of the software between the two. I'm very happy with the way it accelerates and brakes during radar cruise control. I do. So good.
No. One of the things from the old days of me driving Hyundais and Kias is it always seemed like some of the sensors were maybe a little less responsive than they should have been. Are you
Okay.
seeing anything like that?
Not less responsive in what sense? Like,
I'll
if
give
someone
you.
cuts you off and it doesn't brake hard enough?
Yeah. No, I'll
Or
give you exactly
okay.
almost always this same scenario would happen. You're driving down the lane. Someone from the lane to the right of you cuts you off at a distance, and the car wouldn't react as quickly as I wanted it to. As quickly, for instance, if they came in from the other side.
Okay. So there's a difference between a car coming from the right and car coming from the left.
Yes.
Okay. I haven't experienced that, so I can't comment on that.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good. Then maybe again.
No, but I mean, I haven't experienced that scenario. So I don't know.
Oh,
But
Jesus.
I guess I'll look. I'll keep an eye out for that. But this is just mostly coming up to a vehicle and then coming to a stop.
Right.
That's been very smooth. Occasionally, I have seen the same behavior that other reviewers on YouTube have noted, which is when you're going on a straight line, the steering wheel will kind of do micro adjustments. Yeah, occasionally does that. So yeah, so if you do have your hands on the steering wheel, it does get annoying because it's.
Do you find that you're fighting the steering wheel because of these little micro adjustments, or is it just little trivial nudges?
For those micro ones, I think they're trivial enough. Like I remember just the one time I seeing that, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to hold the steering wheel straight, and it was fine. I think a lot of that was just people trying the hands off, which you're not supposed to. But and so they're trying, they're showing that the wheel is doing the micro adjustment. But I would imagine if you're, if you had your hands on a wheel, it won't do it.
It's fine.
Where I do sometimes fight the steering wheel is when it's not in cruise control. So you're just in, your regular surface streets. If you do have lane, it's Toyota speak would be lane trace assist, but what I guess it's lane follow assist. It does sometimes tend to turn a bit early.
Interesting.
So it feels like you're going to cut the corner or at least ride the line, the lane markings. And this is just, again, you're not under cruise control, just normal driving, but you have the lane assist on.
Right.
The feature on, yeah.
Right. Lots of companies struggle with that. I still, where I live, I still see model FSD testers every day. And it seems like a lot of them like to ride that right side of the lane really hard while they're reading their book or putting on their makeup or having their morning coffee because they're beta anyway.
Pay attention.
Yeah, pay attention. Keep your hands on the wheel. John, we are coming to about 5 minutes left. So how would you like to wrap this up, my friend?
Well, actually, I do want to make one more comment because I know that was also come up. So this vehicle has these three vehicles, the triplets, the GV60, the EV6, and Ioniq 5, do not have a rear wiper. The Ioniq 5, and we've lost it. There we go. The Ioniq 5 was launched first, so a lot of the reactions have been based on the Ioniq 5, and the assumptions carried on to the EV6. I found that because of the angle of the rear window of the EV6 and the fact that it has a lip spoiler at the end, the water doesn't accumulate, the dirt doesn't accumulate as poorly or as well, I guess, as it does on the Ioniq 5. So I don't feel like the rear window is as obstructed as I've seen on other vehicles or other reviews of the Ioniq 5. So some of that assumption carries over, but I don't think that's the case.
Do you just miss it because of the Prius days and always having one?
Yeah, but surprisingly with the Prime, that's the same thing. I mean, they were right. Like it worked fine. Now I understand if you had heavy snow, then yeah, okay, it's going to accumulate, wet snow. There's nothing you can do about that. But it's the same with the sedan, right?
Right.
So we'll I'll say a judgment when next winter comes around. But so far in the rain, it's been fine. Yeah.
Good. I mean, you are a meteorologist, so your vehicle has to be all-weather approved, I'm guessing.
That's correct. It also, yes.
What else, John? I don't want to frame you in here at the end. I mean, any other?
I would say, yeah, if you have the opportunity to try one of these, definitely give it a shot. Again, there will be differences in the three vehicles. They have done a good job of using the same platform for these three vehicles, the triplets, the Hyundai Genesis and the Kia models.
Sure.
But there's such a difference between the three that they feel like different vehicles, and so they've done more so than platform sharing in the past. So definitely, if you want more of a family-oriented comfort cruiser, go with the Ioniq 5. It's also a little bit more spacious and more flexible with the rear sliding rear seats. You can adjust for the cargo space. Again, if you want something a little sportier, it is rally inspired. If you know the Lancia Stratos, you look at the rear spoiler of Lancia Stratos, that's exactly that light bar of the EV6 from wheel to wheel. That's definitely, and especially if you get the GT line with the colored keyed fenders and the larger 20-inch wheels, it really does set the image there. And I personally like the suede seats, but if you don't, there's always a synthetic leather option for the GT line as well in the US. In Canada, that would be the GT line Package 1. But then, of course, if you want more luxury, the NVIDIA sound system, nicer GV60 trimmings, yeah, than GV60, nicer microfiber suede headliners and A and B pillar trims than Bang & Olufsen sound system. There is a performance model with 468 horsepower that will do 0 to 60 in 4.2 seconds, closer to 4 if you use the boost function. Which again, with the 800-volt architecture, you can continually boost this. There's no cooldown. After 10 seconds, push the button again.
And go.
And go. And pricing has just been released.
Well, John, thank you so much. Anything you want to plug or on the way out?
No, I mean, like we're very fortunate to be living in a time where there's a lot of options coming out. Definitely do your research. In terms of what kind of features you're looking for, what kind of range you're looking for, and just unfortunately, with the times we're living, the wait times are going to be long, unfortunately. Then that's just the reality. But hopefully, the supply chain will improve, and we can get these vehicles to these exciting new prospective owners that want to enjoy driving EVs.
I hope so. I can't wait. I hope I get a chance to drive one sometime soon. I'd like
Yeah,
to.
leave river up here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to wait and see if I can get Hyundai or Kia to free one up here. But
That's probably
yeah.
the better. Yeah. Better
And I'm a big Genesis fan, so I'm psyched about the GV60. I'll be interested to see. Anyway, hey, thank you, John, so much for spending time with us today. We're going to recap this in a very thin summary form on the What Drives Us episode, recording in just a little while. So, John, thanks again for doing both those shows. Thanks to all of you for watching. Tune in next week and find out what drives us.